The images coming out of Kiev, out of Ukraine, they're gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching, just awful images. But I'm just going to cut to the chase, and that's going to be my first question to KT McFarland. With all this White House bluster and there will be consequences, blah, 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 blah. Seriously, what can we do? And why should we care? That is their fight. Joining us on 710 KURV, Fox News national security analyst KT McFarland. What say you, KT?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. There's very little we can do other than bail them out, bail Ukraine out. They're heavily in debt.
So are we.
We're not about to bail them out. They need energy. We can't give them energy. Yeah. So I think there's very little we can do other than urge cooler heads, compromise, et cetera, et cetera. And why do we care? I think we care because it should be a cautionary tale to us. Here's Ukraine, a country that wants to ally with the West, wants democracy, wants freedom, but it's got three big problems. One, they are massively in debt. They have way overspent. They're at least $15 billion in debt, and they need loans, immediate loans, to keep the game going. Two, they're energy dependent. They rely completely on Russian natural gas, and the Russians have shown in the past that they're perfectly willing to turn off the gas, turn off the spigot, and Ukrainians can be shivering and in the dark unless Russia gets what it wants.
Wow.
And finally, the Ukrainian leadership has, although elected, they have slowly but surely grasped power from the people, and they're corrupt and incompetent. So we should look at that and say, we should not spend more than we have. We should make sure we are energy independent. And finally, we should elect leaders who aren't going to power grab and who are going to be good leaders and competent leaders.
Well, there you go. Whatever it is that they do, it all goes back to energy. It all goes back to gas. And since they were completely dependent on the Russians and I'm guessing all the electrical lines and the pipelines, they come in from Mother Russia.
You bet.
Then they have no other choice. That they need to play nice with Russia. So whatever happens, it's not going to be good for them when it comes to receiving whatever energy they need to.
Well, this is when I was in the Reagan administration. Sergio, President Reagan argued against the Russians wanted to build a gas pipeline to Europe and be the energy suppliers of Europe. And the Russians went to the European leaders and they said, look, you don't want to rely on Arab oil because look at how unreliable it is. There's the Iranian Revolution. There was the Arab oil embargo of 1974. Better that you switch and get natural gas from us, Russia. You can count on it. We're not going to have any problems, no revolution. And Reagan at the time said no, and he tried to convince the Europeans, don't do it. The minute you do it, you will be dependent on Russia, and they will be calling the shots. And sure enough, ultimately, the Russians did build pipelines into Europe, and now we have the consequence that if Russia decides that it wants a certain political advantage and it's not getting it, it's going to get it by turning off the gas.
Former Assistant Secretary of State and Pentagon spokeswoman KT McFarland, our guest right now on 710 KURV.
Yeah, KT, Tim Sullivan here.
Hi, Tim.
I kind of see this as a situation that at least it could have huge implications. I mean, here you have a former Soviet republic wanting to become part of the West, part of the European environment, a social democracy. I'm not sure that this should be just their fight. Ukraine could become part of the West.
Well, sure, but the question is, what will it take to be part of the West? Who's going to bail them out? Who's going to give them $15 billion? Europeans aren't going to do it. They're tired of bailing out countries. Will the United States do it? Secondly, who's going to give them the energy? And then finally, to do it, Russia's not going to give this one up without a fight.
No, sir.
They look at that and they say, and Putin particularly, he's had his successful Olympics. Russia is back throughout the world and establishing itself as the new Russia. The old Russia's back, and it's even better than before. And he's not going to give this up. Ukraine, for them, is important. It's not only historically important, it's got two critical ports that they need to get to the Mediterranean, and it's Russia's breadbasket.
And as far as we're concerned, I wonder if President Obama wants another type of East-West showdown, proxy showdown with Putin as he had with him over Syria.
Oh, my gosh, every time they get into a room, Obama runs for cover. All Putin has to do is raise his eyebrow, and Obama says something silly and gives up. So, no, he doesn't want to fight.
As soon as the Olympic flame is extinguished, I am waiting to see on the horizon...
tanks.
Yes.
I think you're right. Russians do not want anything spoiling the Olympics. They've gone very well. This has been Putin's big, debut on the world stage. He's showing, again, as I said, Russia's back. They don't want anything to mar that, but I think once the Olympic Games are finished, and if the demonstrators are still fighting, then I think you'll see.
Yeah, and I say that because the ones who are in power, Tim, are pro-Soviet. I'm sorry. Well, Freudian.
They're the puppets of
pro-Russian, and they're going to come in to support the leadership against the terrorist infiltration or insurgency, whatever. But we can just see it. We can see those Russian tanks lining up already. They're going to come in to Kiev and quell whatever protest.
Well, first of all, they have to deal with their hockey team. I think that'll probably come first.
That's the only thing that Russia's not gotten well in the last few weeks.
Yes. They'll get over that hangover really quick. The hockey team's probably in Siberia somewhere by now. Thank you much, KT. That's KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst and host of DEFCON 3 on FoxNews.com. KT McFarland on 710 KURV.